When a quiet single father steps into the glass tower of the city's most powerful CEO, he doesn't expect to recognize the cold eyes staring back at him. Eyes that once belonged to the woman he loved and lost 7 years ago. She denies it. She avoids him. But when the truth explodes in a crowded boardroom, both must face a past that refuses to stay buried, and a future no one dares to believe in. Stay with this story until the very end. Hit like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let's begin. Liam Carter had never been the type to believe in signs. He believed in paychecks, in showing up, in keeping his head down and doing the work nobody else wanted to do. That's how he'd survived the last 7 years, one shift at a time, one bill paid, one bedtime story read to his son before the lights went out. So when he walked into the glass tower on 5th and Monroe that Monday morning, he wasn't looking for meaning. He was looking for the service elevator. The job was simple. Maintenance contract. 3 months, maybe 6 if they liked him. HVAC units on the 14th floor, busted wiring in the executive wing, a few cosmetic fixes here and there. Nothing he hadn't done 100 times before. The company was called Vaughn Industries, some tech firm that had blown up in the last 5 years. He didn't know much about it, and he didn't care to. Work was work. He clocked in at 7:30, grabbed his toolbox from the loading dock, and took the freight elevator up. The building smelled like money, polished marble, recessed lighting, the kind of silence that only came from people who didn't have to raise their voices to get what they wanted. Liam had been in places like this before. He knew the script. Stay invisible. Don't make eye contact with anyone in a suit. Fix what's broken, collect the check, go home to his kid. The 14th floor was all open-plan offices and glass partitions. Young people in expensive clothes typing fast, talking faster. He moved through them like a shadow, toolbox in hand, work order clipped to his belt. Nobody looked at him. That was fine. He preferred it that way. The HVAC unit was in the ceiling above a conference room. He set up his ladder, pulled out his tools, and got to work. The compressor was shot. Whoever had installed it originally had done a garbage job. Wrong fittings, no proper seals. He'd have to replace half the system just to get it running again. He was elbow deep in ductwork when he heard voices below. I don't care what the projections say. If we can't deliver by Q2, we pull the entire campaign and pivot to something else. The voice was female, clear, sharp enough to cut glass. Liam didn't look down. Wasn't his business. Elena, we've already sunk $8 million into this. Walking away now. Walking away now saves us from sinking 20. I'm not interested in defending a bad decision just because we've already made it. Kill it. There was a pause. Then footsteps. A door closing. Liam adjusted his grip on the wrench and kept working. Whoever Elena was, she didn't sound like someone who took no for an answer. He finished the repair an hour later, climbed down, and packed up his tools. As he turned toward the hallway, the conference room door opened, and she walked out. Liam froze. It wasn't possible. The woman was tall, mid-30s, wearing a charcoal suit that looked like it cost more than his truck. Her hair was pulled back tight, her expression unreadable. She was looking down at her phone, fingers moving fast across the screen. But it was her. He knew the shape of her face, the way she held her shoulders, the small scar just above her left eyebrow that she'd gotten falling off a bike when she was 19. Ava? The name came out before he could stop it. She didn't react, didn't even glance up, just kept walking, heels clicking against the marble floor. Liam stood there, toolbox in hand, heart pounding in his chest like a trapped animal. It couldn't be her. Ava was gone. She'd been gone for 7 years. No calls, no letters, no explanation. Just gone. He'd looked for her, filed a missing person report, spent months checking hospitals, shelters, anywhere she might have ended up. Nothing. It was like she'd stepped off the edge of the earth, and now here she was, walking past him like he didn't exist. He took a step forward. Ava. This time she stopped. She turned slowly and looked at him. Her eyes were the same green he remembered, but colder, emptier. I'm sorry, she said, voice flat. Do I know you? Liam's mouth went dry. It's me, Liam. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head, just slightly. I think you have me confused with someone else. No, I don't. Ava, it's been 7 years. I looked for you. Everyone looked for you. Where the hell have you been? Her expression didn't change. My name is Elena Vaughn. I don't know who you think I am, but you're mistaken. She turned and walked away. Liam stood there, hands shaking, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. The way she'd looked at him. The way she'd said his name wasn't hers. He'd known Ava for 4 years before she disappeared. They'd met at a diner where she worked nights, pouring coffee and taking orders from truckers who never tipped. He'd been fixing the walk-in cooler. She'd brought him a sandwich without asking, told him he looked like he needed it more than the kitchen did. They'd started talking. She was 24, saving up for college, wanted to study architecture, loved old buildings, the way they held history in their bones. She had this way of looking at things, like she could see the blueprint underneath, the structure no one else noticed. They'd moved in together after 6 months. It wasn't perfect. She had bad days, days where she wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat, just stared out the window like she was waiting for something to come find her. But she always came back, always curled up next to him at night and whispered that she was sorry, that she was trying, and then one morning she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty closet and a phone number that didn't work anymore. He'd fallen apart, spent a year barely holding it together, working double shifts to keep the lights on, drinking too much, sleeping too little. And then he'd found out about the baby. Not his, but close enough. His younger sister had died in a car accident, and her son, 3 years old, scared out of his mind, had no one else. So Liam became a father overnight. He quit drinking, started showing up, learned how to cook more than ramen, read parenting books at the library, did everything he could to give the kid a life that didn't feel like wreckage. And somewhere in all of that, he stopped looking for Ava. Until now. The next morning, Liam went back to the building. He wasn't scheduled to work the 14th floor again, but he found a reason. Told his supervisor there was a follow-up check needed on the HVAC system. It wasn't a lie. There were always follow-up checks. He took the elevator up, walked the halls, kept his eyes open. He saw her twice that day. Once in the lobby, talking to a man in an expensive suit who nodded at everything she said. Once through the glass wall of a meeting room, standing at the head of a long table, pointing at something on a screen. She never looked his way. But he couldn't stop looking at her. Over the next 2 weeks, Liam pieced together what he could. Elena Vaughn, 34 years old, CEO of Vaughn Industries, a data analytics firm that had gone from startup to major player in less than 5 years. She'd been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, some tech magazine he'd never heard of. The articles called her a visionary, a disruptor, someone who redefined efficiency in a stagnant industry. There were photos. Her shaking hands with investors, cutting ribbons, standing on stages in front of crowds. In every single one, she looked like a stranger. Liam dug deeper. He found an old interview from 3 years ago where she talked about her background, grew up in foster care, put herself through business school, started the company with money she'd saved working 3 jobs. No mention of a diner. No mention of a man named Liam. No mention of anyone. It didn't make sense. He thought about confronting her again, walking right up to her office, demanding answers. But what would he even say? You used to be someone else? You forgot your own life? It sounded insane. Maybe it was. But then one afternoon he saw something that changed everything. He was working on a panel in the executive wing, replacing a faulty circuit breaker. The hallway was empty, or so he thought. Then he heard her voice. I said no. It was coming from around the corner. Liam set down his tools and moved closer, staying out of sight. Elena, you're being unreasonable. A man's voice, older, authoritative. I'm being clear. The answer is no. You don't have the board's support on this. If you push it, they'll remove you. There was a pause. When Elena spoke again, her voice was quieter, colder. Then they'll remove me. Footsteps. The man walked past Liam without noticing him, muttering something under his breath. Liam waited until the hallway was silent again. Then he turned the corner. Elena was standing by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the city below. He almost walked away. Almost. You don't remember me. She didn't turn around. I already told you. I know what you told me. I'm saying I don't believe you. Now she turned. Her expression was unreadable, but there was something in her eyes. Something that wasn't quite as cold as before. "What do you want from me?" "The truth." She laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. "The truth. You don't even know me." "I did. 7 years ago. You were Ava Monroe. You worked at a diner on 6th Street. You wanted to be an architect. You had a scar above your left eyebrow from a bike accident when you were a kid." Her face didn't change, but her hand moved, just slightly, to the spot above her eyebrow. Liam took a step closer. "You left. No warning, no explanation. And now you're here pretending you never existed. Why?" Elena's jaw tightened. "I don't owe you an explanation." "Maybe not, but you owe yourself one." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Elena turned back to the window. "I'm not who you think I am. I haven't been for a long time." "Then who are you?" She didn't answer. Liam stood there, waiting, but she didn't say another word. Finally, he picked up his toolbox and left. That night, his son asked him why he looked sad. Liam was tucking him into bed, pulling the blanket up to his chin. The kid was 8 now, smart as hell, with a habit of noticing things adults tried to hide. "I'm not sad, buddy. Just tired." "You look sad." Liam sat down on the edge of the bed. "Sometimes people disappear, and you spend a long time wondering why. And then one day you see them again, and they're not the same person anymore." His son thought about that. "Did they forget you?" "I don't know. Maybe." "That's sad." "Yeah, it was." The next day, Liam made a decision. He wasn't going to chase her, wasn't going to beg for answers or try to force her into remembering something she clearly didn't want to remember. But he wasn't going to walk away either. If Elena Vaughn, or Ava, or whoever she was now, wanted to pretend the past didn't exist, fine. But he wasn't going to let her pretend he didn't exist. He started paying attention, not in an obvious way. He didn't follow her or show up where she was. But he worked in the building 5 days a week, and it wasn't hard to notice patterns. She arrived every morning at 6:45. Black coffee, no sugar. She never took lunch. Stayed late most nights, sometimes until 10 or 11. She didn't talk to people unless it was work-related. Didn't smile. Didn't laugh. She was alone. And the more Liam watched, the more he realized something. She wasn't just pretending not to know him. She was pretending not to know anyone. One Thursday afternoon, Liam was fixing a door hinge on the 10th floor when he overheard 2 women talking by the coffee machine. "I don't know how she does it. I'd lose my mind." "She doesn't have a mind to lose. She's a robot." They both laughed. "Seriously, though, no friends, no relationships, nothing, just work. It's not normal." "Maybe that's why she's so good at it. No distractions." "Yeah, well, I'd rather be mediocre and happy." Liam didn't say anything, just tightened the hinge and moved on, but the conversation stayed with him. A week later, he ran into her in the parking garage. It was late, almost 9. He'd been replacing overhead lights in the stairwell and lost track of time. When he came down to the garage, the place was nearly empty. Elena was standing by a black sedan, key fob in hand, staring at the car like she'd forgotten what it was for. Liam slowed his pace. He could have walked past her, gone straight to his truck. But something about the way she was standing, shoulders tight, head down, made him stop. "Long day?" She looked up, startled. For a second he thought she might tell him to leave, but she didn't. "Every day is long." Liam nodded. He set his toolbox down, leaned against a concrete pillar. "You ever take a break?" "From what?" "From this." He gestured vaguely at the building above them. "The whole thing." Elena's mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "Breaks are for people who can afford them. Everyone can afford them. They just don't think they can." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for the first time since he'd seen her again, there was something in her eyes that wasn't ice. "You don't know anything about my life." "No, but I know what it looks like when someone's running from something." Her expression hardened. "I'm not running." "Then what are you doing?" She didn't answer, just unlocked the car, got in, and drove away. But Liam had seen it, that flicker, that crack in the wall. She remembered something. The following Monday, Liam was summoned to the executive floor, not for a repair, for a meeting. He didn't know what the hell that meant, But when security told him to take the main elevator up to 18 and report to conference room B, he didn't argue. The room was all glass and steel, a long table in the center with leather chairs on either side. A man in his 50s was already seated, flipping through a tablet. He didn't look up when Liam walked in. "Mr. Carter, sit." Liam sat. The man finally looked at him. "I'm Richard Dalton, COO. I'll get to the point. We've received feedback that you've been engaging with Ms. Vaughn in a manner that's made her uncomfortable." Liam's stomach dropped. "What? You've approached her multiple times, initiated conversations. She's mentioned it to HR. Liam stopped, took a breath. "I haven't done anything inappropriate." "That's not for you to decide." "She knows me. We have history." Dalton raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Vaughn has no record of knowing you. And frankly, Mr. Carter, the optics of a contract worker repeatedly approaching a female executive are not good." Liam felt his face heat up. "I'm not harassing her." "Then stop talking to her. Do your job. Stay in your lane. Understood?" Liam wanted to argue, wanted to tell this guy to go to hell, but he had a kid at home and bills to pay and a job he couldn't afford to lose. So he nodded. "Good. You're dismissed." Liam stood, grabbed his toolbox, and left. He made it halfway to the elevator before the anger hit. She'd reported him. After everything, after he'd recognized her, after he'd tried to reach her, after he'd seen the goddamn scars she got falling off a bike in a town she claimed she'd never been to, she'd reported him to HR like he was some creep off the street. He slammed his fist against the elevator button. The doors opened. Elena was inside. They stared at each other. Liam stepped in. The doors closed. For 10 floors, neither of them spoke. Then, just before the elevator reached the lobby, Elena hit the emergency stop button. The car jerked to a halt. "What the hell are you doing?" Liam said. Elena turned to face him. Her expression was tight, controlled, but her hands were shaking. "I didn't report you." Liam blinked. "What?" "Dalton did it on his own. He thinks he's protecting me, but I didn't ask him to." "Then why didn't you stop him?" "Because I can't afford to look weak. If I defend you, they'll use it against me. They already think I'm too emotional, too unpredictable. If I give them any reason to question my judgment, they'll push me out." Liam stared at her. "So you threw me under the bus. I kept you employed. If I'd said you were telling the truth, they would have fired you on the spot." "And you thought that was better?" Elena's voice cracked. "I don't know what's better anymore." The silence that followed was suffocating. Liam leaned back against the elevator wall. "You do remember me." Elena closed her eyes. "I remember pieces, fragments, like a dream I can't quite hold on to." "That's not good enough." "It's all I have." Liam looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't seen before. Fear. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. Elena opened her eyes. They were wet. "I don't know. I woke up in a hospital 7 years ago with no memory of who I was. No ID, no family, no past. They told me I'd been in an accident, that I was lucky to be alive. I spent months trying to remember. Therapy, hypnosis, everything. Nothing worked. So I stopped trying. I built a new life, became someone new, and it worked. Until you showed up." Liam felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "You didn't leave. You didn't choose this." "No? Then why didn't you come back? When you remembered..." "I didn't remember. I still don't. Not really. Just feelings. Faces I can't place. A name I'm not sure is mine. It is yours. Ava Monroe. You were 24. You wanted to be an architect. You..." "Stop." Her voice was sharp. "Please, just stop." Liam stopped. Elena wiped her eyes, composed herself. "I can't be her. Whoever she was, she's gone. I have a life now, a company, people depending on me. I can't just walk away from that." "I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" Liam didn't know. He didn't have an answer. Elena reached for the emergency stop button again. The elevator lurched back into motion. When the doors opened, she stepped out without looking back. But this time, Liam knew she wasn't running from him. She was running from herself. And he wasn't going to let her do it alone. Liam didn't go back to the building the next day. He called in sick, told his supervisor he had the flu, needed a day to recover. It wasn't entirely a lie. He felt like hell. Spent the morning staring at his coffee, replaying the conversation in the elevator over and over until the words stopped making sense. She didn't remember, not really, just pieces. Fragments. 7 years of her life, gone. And she'd built a whole new existence on top of the wreckage, brick by brick, until the foundation was so solid she couldn't see what was buried underneath anymore. He should have felt sorry for her. He did feel sorry for her. But he also felt angry. Because she was choosing this. Choosing the lie. Choosing to be Elena Vaughn instead of Ava Monroe. Not because she had to, but because it was easier, safer, less complicated than facing the truth. His son came downstairs around noon, still in his pajamas, carrying a book about dinosaurs. "You're home," the kid said, surprised. "Yeah, took the day off." "Are you sick?" Something like that. His son climbed onto the couch next to him, opened the book, and started reading aloud. Something about a brachiosaurus. Liam wasn't really listening. He was thinking about the hospital Elena had mentioned. The accident. No ID, no family, no past. What kind of accident did that to a person? "Dad?" Liam blinked. "Yeah? You're not listening." "Sorry, buddy. What'd you say?" His son sighed, exasperated. "I said, do you think dinosaurs knew they were going to go extinct?" Liam almost laughed. "I don't know. Probably not." "That's sad." "Yeah, it is." The kid went back to his book. Liam stared at the ceiling. He thought about calling someone. A private investigator, maybe. Someone who could dig into hospital records, find out what had really happened 7 years ago. But that felt wrong, like a violation. Elena had made it clear she didn't want him digging into her past. But what if the past was the only thing that could save her? By the time his son went to bed that night, Liam had made a decision. He wasn't going to push her, wasn't going to demand answers or force her to remember. But he also wasn't going to disappear. If she wanted him gone, she'd have to say it to his face. And if she didn't, if there was even a chance she wanted to know the truth, he'd be there. The next morning, he went back to work. The building felt different now, like he was walking through a place he didn't belong, surrounded by people who knew something he didn't. He kept his head down, did his job, avoided the 14th floor entirely. But on his lunch break, he found himself in the lobby, sitting on a bench near the elevators, watching people come and go. Elena walked past him at 12:30. She didn't look at him, didn't slow down, just moved through the crowd like water, untouchable. Liam didn't try to stop her, but he noticed something. She was limping. It was subtle, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. A slight hitch in her step, like her left leg wasn't quite carrying her weight the way it should. He'd never seen her limp before. That afternoon, he asked around. Not directly, he wasn't stupid, but he struck up a conversation with one of the security guards, a guy named Marcus, who'd been working the building for 10 years. "You ever notice the boss limping?" Liam asked casually, leaning against the desk in the lobby. Marcus glanced up. "Vaughn? Yeah, sometimes. Old injury, I think. Acts up when she's stressed." "She say what happened?" "Nah, she doesn't talk about herself, keeps everything locked down." Marcus grinned. "Why, you interested?" Liam shrugged. "Just curious." "Well, don't be. That woman's got walls you couldn't climb with a ladder." Liam nodded, but his mind was already somewhere else. An old injury. From the accident, probably. The one that had stolen her memory and left her in a hospital with no name. He wondered what else it had taken from her. That weekend, Liam took his son to the park. It was one of those rare, clear Saturdays where the air didn't feel like it was trying to suffocate you. They threw a football around for a while, then got ice cream from a truck parked near the playground. His son was halfway through a chocolate cone when he said, "You've been weird lately." Liam raised an eyebrow. "Weird how?" "I don't know, quiet. Like you're thinking about something all the time." "I'm always thinking about something." "Yeah, but it's different now." Liam didn't know what to say to that. The kid was right. He had been different, distracted, stuck in his own head. "There's someone I used to know," Liam said slowly. "Someone I thought was gone, and I found her again, but she's not the same person anymore." His son thought about that, licking melted ice cream off his fingers. "Is that bad?" "I don't know, maybe." "Do you want her to be the same?" Liam looked at his son, this smart, perceptive kid who noticed everything, and realized he didn't have an answer. Did he want Ava back? Or did he just want to understand why she'd left? Maybe it was both. I think I just want her to be okay, Liam said finally. His son nodded, satisfied with that. Then help her. It's not that simple. Why not? Because she doesn't want my help. Because she's built a life that doesn't have room for me in it. Because I'm scared that if I push too hard, she'll break. But he didn't say any of that, just ruffled his son's hair and said, "Finish your ice cream." They spent the rest of the afternoon at the park. His son ran around on the playground, climbed the jungle gym, made friends with a couple of other kids. Liam sat on a bench and watched, trying to remember the last time he'd felt this uncertain about anything. 7 years ago, when Ava disappeared, he'd known what to do. Search, ask questions, file reports, keep looking until there were no more places to look. But now? Now she was right in front of him, and he had no idea what his next move should be. When they got home that evening, his son asked if they could watch a movie. They settled on something animated, something safe. Liam made popcorn, and they curled up on the couch together. Halfway through the movie, his son fell asleep against his shoulder. Liam turned off the TV and carried him upstairs, tucked him into bed. The kid didn't even stir. Back downstairs, Liam poured himself a drink. Just one. He'd learned his limits the hard way. He sat in the dark kitchen, glass in hand, and thought about Elena standing in that elevator, tears in her eyes, telling him she didn't know who she was anymore. He believed her, but he also believed she was lying to herself, because somewhere underneath all that control, all that ice, was the woman who'd brought him a sandwich in a diner and told him he looked like he needed it. The woman who'd filled their apartment with half-dead plants and refused to give up on them. The woman who'd wake up in the middle of the night with ideas about buildings and sketches and futures she wanted to create. That woman was still in there. She just didn't know how to find her way back. Monday came too fast. Liam was working on a busted thermostat in the East Wing when he heard shouting. It was coming from down the hall, loud enough to carry through the walls. He set down his tools and walked toward the noise. A group of people had gathered near one of the conference rooms. Through the glass, Liam could see Elena standing at the head of the table, her face tight with anger. Across from her was Richard Dalton, the COO who'd threatened Liam last week. "You're making a mistake," Dalton was saying, his voice sharp. "I'm making a decision," Elena shot back. "There's a difference. A decision that's going to cost us millions. A decision that's going to save us from losing everything." Dalton slammed his hand on the table. "You don't have the authority to do this without board approval." Elena's voice dropped, cold and dangerous. "I have the authority to do whatever I think is best for this company. That's what you hired me for. We hired you to make smart choices, not reckless ones." "Reckless? You want to talk about reckless? You've been pushing this expansion for 6 months knowing the numbers don't support it. You've been lying to the board, to the investors, to everyone because you're too proud to admit you were wrong." Dalton's face turned red. "Watch yourself, Elena." "Or what? You'll have me removed?" "Go ahead. But when this company collapses because you couldn't let go of a bad idea, don't pretend you didn't see it coming." She turned and walked out of the room, leaving Dalton standing there, furious and humiliated. The crowd in the hallway scattered. Liam stayed where he was. Elena brushed past him without a word, her jaw clenched, her hands shaking. He followed her. She took the stairs instead of the elevator, moving fast despite the limp. Liam kept a few steps behind, not saying anything, just making sure she didn't fall. She stopped on the landing between floors, gripping the railing, breathing hard. "Stop following me." Liam leaned against the wall. "No. I'm fine." "You're not." She turned to face him, eyes blazing. "You don't get to decide that." "I'm not deciding anything. I'm just here." "Why?" "Because you're about to snap in half, and there's no one else around to catch you." Elena laughed, bitter and sharp. "I don't need catching. Everyone needs catching." She shook her head, turned away. "You don't know me. I know enough. You know a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe. But I also know what it looks like when someone's drowning. And you're drowning, Elena." She didn't respond, just stared at the wall, breathing slow and measured, like she was trying to hold herself together by force of will alone. Liam took a step closer. "What happened in there?" "None of your business. Looked like Dalton's trying to push you out." "He's been trying to push me out for 2 years. This isn't new." "Then why does it feel like it's getting worse?" Elena's shoulders sagged. "Because it is. The board doesn't trust me. They think I'm too aggressive, too unpredictable. Every decision I make, they question. Every move I make, they scrutinize. I can't breathe without someone analyzing whether it's good for the company. So why stay? She looked at him like he'd just asked her to jump off a bridge. Because this is all I have. That's not true. Yes, it is. I built this. From nothing. I don't have a family. I don't have friends. I don't have anything except this company. If I lose it, I lose everything. Liam wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, that there was more to life than work, that she didn't have to carry this alone, but he could see it in her eyes. She believed what she was saying, believed it so deeply that nothing he said would change her mind. So instead he said, "You ever take a day off?" Elena blinked. "What?" "A day off, where you don't come to work, don't answer emails, don't think about the company." "I don't have time for that." "Everyone has time for that. They just don't take it." She stared at him, suspicious. "Why are you asking?" "Because you look like you haven't slept in a week. And because if you don't take a break, you're going to collapse. And then the board really will push you out." Elena's jaw tightened. "I don't need your advice." "I know. But you're getting it anyway." For a moment he thought she might tell him to go to hell. But instead she just sighed, rubbed her eyes, and said, "I don't know how." "How to what?" "How to stop. How to just be. I've been running for so long, I don't remember what it's like to stand still." Liam recognized that feeling. He'd felt it himself after Ava disappeared, after his sister died, after he became a father overnight and had to figure out how to hold a life together that was already falling apart. "You don't have to stop," he said quietly. "You just have to slow down, long enough to remember why you're running in the first place." Elena looked at him, and for the first time there was no ice in her eyes, just exhaustion. "I don't know why anymore." Liam didn't have an answer for that, so he just stood there with her, in the stairwell between floors, while the building hummed around them and the world kept moving and neither of them said another word. The silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Elena's breathing eventually steadied and some of the tension left her shoulders. "I have a meeting in 10 minutes, she said finally. "You going to be okay?" "I don't have a choice." Liam pushed off the wall. "For what it's worth, I think Dalton's full of it. You're not reckless. You're just willing to make the hard call when everyone else is too scared." Elena almost smiled. "You don't even know what the decision was." "Doesn't matter. I know you wouldn't make it unless you thought it was right." She looked at him for a long moment. "You have too much faith in people." "Maybe. Or maybe you don't have enough faith in yourself." Before she could respond, Liam turned and headed back down the stairs. He heard her footsteps behind him a moment later, heading up. The following week, something shifted. Elena didn't take a day off, but she started leaving earlier, not by much, an hour, maybe 2, but it was something. Liam noticed. He also noticed that Dalton was watching her more closely now, hovering, waiting for her to slip. On Wednesday afternoon, Liam was replacing a broken light fixture outside the executive wing when he overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. 2 board members, he recognized them from photos in the lobby, were talking in low voices near the water cooler. "Dalton's putting together a vote of no confidence," one of them said. "He's got 4 board members already. That's not enough. He only needs 6, and he thinks he can get Hampton and Cruz on board by the end of the month." "What about Vaughn?" "She won't go quietly. She doesn't have a choice. The numbers speak for themselves. Her expansion veto cost us the Silverman account. That's $15 million in revenue, gone. Dalton's expansion would have cost us $30 million if it tanked." "Maybe, but at least it was a bet. What Vaughn's doing isn't betting. It's retreating. And the market doesn't reward cowards." They walked away, leaving Liam standing there with a screwdriver in his hand and a knot in his stomach. He finished the repair on autopilot, his mind racing. 6 votes. Dalton had 4. He needed 2 more. And Elena had no idea it was coming. That evening, Liam waited in the parking garage until Elena came down. It was past 8. The place was nearly empty. When she appeared, walking slowly toward her car, he stepped out from behind a pillar. She jumped. "Jesus, you scared me." "Sorry, I need to talk to you." "Can it wait? I'm exhausted." "No." Something in his tone made her stop. "What's wrong?" Dalton's putting together a vote of no confidence. He's got 4 board members lined up. He needs 6. Elena's face went pale. How do you know that? I overheard Hampton and Cruz talking. They said Dalton's trying to flip 2 more by the end of the month. Who? I don't know. But you need to find out, and you need to do it fast. Elena leaned against her car, processing. If he gets 6 votes, I'm out. They can force me to resign. Can you stop him? I don't know. Maybe. If I can prove the expansion would have failed, I might be able to turn Hampton and Cruz back to my side. But I'd need hard data, projections, market analysis, and I'd need it before Dalton gets to them. How long would that take? A week. Maybe less if I pull an all-nighter. Liam shook his head. You can't do this alone. I don't have anyone else. You have me. Elena looked at him, surprised. You're a maintenance worker. No offense, but you don't know anything about data analytics. No, but I know how to keep you from collapsing while you do. And right now, that's what you need. She stared at him for a long moment. Then quietly she said, Why are you doing this? Because someone has to. That's not an answer. Liam took a breath. 7 years ago, the woman I loved disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye. Just gone. I spent a year trying to find her, and when I couldn't, I had to accept that she was never coming back. And now she's standing in front of me, and she doesn't remember me, doesn't remember her own life. But she's still here, and I'm not going to let her disappear again. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I'm not her? Maybe not, but you're still worth fighting for. She looked away, blinking hard. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let someone help me. I've been on my own for so long, I don't know how to trust anyone. Then start small. Let me buy you dinner. You look like you haven't eaten all day. Elena hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. They went to a diner 3 blocks from the office. Nothing fancy, just booths and laminate tables and a waitress who looked like she'd been working there since the 80s. Elena ordered coffee and a sandwich. Liam got the same. They didn't talk about the board or Dalton or the vote. They talked about small things, the weather, the city, his son. How old is he? Elena asked. 8. Smart as hell. Notices everything. He sounds like you, Liam smiled. He's better than me. He's got this way of cutting through the noise, asking the questions that matter. What does he think about you working at Vaughn Industries? He doesn't think about it. To him, I'm just his dad. The job doesn't matter. Elena looked down at her coffee. That must be nice, having someone who sees you for who you are, not what you do. It is. I don't have that. You could. She shook her head. I don't know how. You start by letting people in, even just a little. Elena met his eyes. Is that what you're doing? Letting me in? I'm trying, she smiled, just barely. You're stubborn. So are you. They finished their food in comfortable silence. When the check came, Liam grabbed it before Elena could. I can pay for my own dinner, she said. I know, but I asked you here, so I'm paying. She didn't argue. Outside the diner, they stood on the sidewalk, the city lights flickering around them. Thank you, Elena said quietly. For tonight. For everything. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Because you're the only person who's tried to see me as something other than a CEO. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until now. Liam didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. Elena got into her car and drove away, leaving him standing there, wondering if he'd just made things better or worse. Over the next few days, Elena threw herself into the work. Liam watched from a distance as she stayed late, pulled files, ran numbers. She looked exhausted, but she also looked focused, determined. On Friday afternoon, she found him in the maintenance office. I've got the data, she said without preamble. Dalton's expansion would have tanked in 6 months. I can prove it. Can you get it to the board? I'm presenting on Monday. Emergency meeting. If I can convince Hampton and Cruz, Dalton's vote falls apart. And if you can't? Elena's jaw tightened. Then I'm done. Liam stood up. You're going to do great. You don't know that? Yeah, I do, because you're the smartest person in that building, and the strongest, and they'd be idiots to let you go. Elena looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. I need to ask you something. Okay. That event I mentioned, the gala. It's tonight. Liam had forgotten about it. You still want me to come? I do, but not as a friend, as a date. Liam blinked. What? I need people to see me as human, not just a CEO. And if I show up with you, someone who's real and grounded and not part of their world, it might remind them that I'm not a machine. I'm a person. Elena, I'm not exactly gala material. I don't care. I need you there, please. Liam looked at her, this brilliant, broken woman who was asking him to stand beside her in front of a room full of people who wanted to tear her down, and realized he couldn't say no. Yeah, I'll be there. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. What time? 7. I'll send a car. That night, Liam stood in front of his closet, staring at the one suit he owned. His son appeared in the doorway. Where are you going? A work thing. You look nervous. I am nervous. Why? Liam sat down on the bed. Because I'm going somewhere I don't belong, with someone I care about, and I have no idea if I'm helping or making things worse. His son climbed up next to him. Do you like her? Liam hesitated. Yeah, I do. Then you should go. It's not that simple. Why not? Because she doesn't remember me. Because she's living a life I'm not part of. Because I don't know if she's asking me to be there because she wants me or because she needs a shield. But he didn't say any of that. You're right, Liam said. It's simple. His son grinned. You look nice in that suit. You think? Yeah, like a spy. Liam laughed. I'll take it. The car arrived at 6:30. Liam kissed his son goodnight, left him with the neighbor, and climbed into the back seat. The driver didn't say a word the whole way there. The gala was held at a hotel downtown, the kind of place with valet parking and chandeliers the size of cars. Liam showed up in his charcoal gray suit, feeling completely out of place. But he walked in anyway. The ballroom was massive, all gold trim and polished floors. People milled around in expensive clothes, holding champagne glasses, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Liam spotted Elena near the far end of the room. She was wearing a black dress, simple and elegant, her hair down for the first time since he'd seen her again. She looked beautiful, untouchable, and completely alone. He made his way through the crowd, ignoring the stares, the whispers. When he reached her, she turned, and for a second he saw relief in her eyes. You came, she said. I said I would. She looked him over, a small smile tugging at her lips. You look uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable. Good, so am I. Before Liam could respond, a man in a tuxedo appeared at Elena's side. Tall, silver-haired, probably in his 60s. He looked like money. Elena, good to see you. Mr. Harrington? Elena's voice was polite, distant. Harrington's eyes flicked to Liam. And who's this? Liam Carter, Elena said. He's with me. Harrington raised an eyebrow. I didn't know you were seeing anyone. There's a lot you don't know about me. Harrington's smile tightened. Apparently. Well, enjoy the evening. We'll talk later. He walked away. Liam looked at Elena. Who was that? Chairman of the board. Also the person most likely to vote me out. He seems like a charmer. He's a shark. They all are. Liam glanced around the room. So why are we here? Because if I don't show up, they'll say I'm weak. And if I do show up, they'll find something else to criticize. There's no winning. Then stop trying to win. Elena looked at him, confused. What? You're playing their game, by their rules. And you're losing because the rules are designed to make you lose, so stop playing. And do what? Be yourself, the person you actually are, not the person they want you to be. Elena's expression softened. I'm trying, but it's hard when I don't know who that person is. Then maybe tonight's a good time to start figuring it out. Before she could respond, someone tapped a microphone at the front of the room. The crowd quieted. Richard Dalton stepped onto the stage. Elena's jaw tightened. Dalton smiled, smooth and confident. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Tonight we celebrate the success of Vaughn Industries, a company built on innovation, determination, and vision. He paused, letting the applause build. But as we look to the future, we must also ask ourselves, Are we still moving in the right direction? Are we making the bold choices that brought us here? Or are we allowing fear and hesitation to hold us back? Elena's hands clenched at her sides. Dalton's eyes found her in the crowd. Leadership isn't about making safe choices. It's about making smart ones. And sometimes the smartest choice is knowing when to step aside. The room went silent. Liam felt the tension coil around them like a wire pulled too tight. Elena didn't move, didn't speak. Dalton smiled. But that's a conversation for another time. For now, let's enjoy the evening. The crowd erupted into applause. Liam looked at Elena. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. Let's get out of here, he said quietly. She didn't argue. They left through a side door, stepping out into the cool night air. The city stretched out around them, lights flickering in the distance. Elena leaned against the wall, eyes closed. He just told the entire room I'm done. He's trying to rattle you. It's working. Liam stepped closer. Then don't let it. You said you don't know who you are anymore. Fine. But you know who you're not. You're not someone who backs down because some asshole tries to embarrass you in front of a crowd. Elena opened her eyes. What if he's right? What if I am holding them back? You're not. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, because I've watched you. I've seen how hard you work, how much you care. You're not holding anyone back. You're just refusing to play the game the way they want you to. Elena stared at him. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Defending me, helping me. You don't owe me anything. I left you. I don't even remember leaving you. And now you're here, standing in the cold with me, telling me I'm worth fighting for. Why? Liam took a breath. Because 7 years ago, I lost the person I loved most in the world. And I spent every day since then wondering if I could have done something different. Something that would have made her stay. And now she's back, and she doesn't remember me, and maybe she never will. But I'll be damned if I let her go through this alone. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve this. You don't get to decide what you deserve. That's not how it works. She laughed, choked and raw. You're impossible. So are you. They stood there in the cold, the city humming around them, and for the first time since Liam had found her again, Elena looked like she might actually believe him. I have to go back in there, she said finally. I know. Will you come with me? Yeah. They walked back into the ballroom together, side by side, and every eye in the room turned to watch them. But this time, Elena didn't flinch. She held her head high, her hand steady in his, and walked straight through the crowd like she owned the place. Because she did. And for the first time in a long time, she was starting to remember what that felt like. The boardroom on Monday morning felt like a courtroom. Elena had spent the entire weekend refining her presentation, running the numbers until her eyes burned and her hands cramped. Liam had shown up at her office Saturday afternoon with coffee and sandwiches, sat in the corner while she worked, didn't say much, just stayed. Now she stood at the head of the table, laptop open, projector humming, facing 6 board members who looked like they'd already made up their minds. Harrington sat at the far end, fingers steepled. Dalton was to his left, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Hampton and Cruz sat across from each other, expressions neutral. The other 2, Morrison and Kent, looked bored. Elena took a breath. Thank you for making time on short notice. I know everyone's busy, so I'll get straight to it. She clicked to the first slide. Market projections, growth curves, revenue forecasts. 3 months ago, Richard proposed an aggressive expansion into the Asian market. The initial projections looked promising, 30% growth over 2 years, increased brand recognition, foothold in emerging economies. Dalton leaned back in his chair, confident. Elena clicked to the next slide. But those projections were based on outdated data. They didn't account for the trade policy shifts in Q3, the currency fluctuations, or the competitive landscape that's changed dramatically in the last 6 months. Harrington's eyebrows lifted slightly. Elena kept going. If we'd moved forward with the expansion, we would have been operating at a loss within 8 months. By year 2, we'd be looking at a deficit of $32 million. The Silverman account we lost was worth $15 million. I chose 15 over 32. That's not fear, that's math. She clicked through slide after slide, each one backing up her argument with hard numbers. Independent analysis, third-party market research. Dalton's smile faded. Hampton leaned forward. These projections, where did you get them? I commissioned them from 3 separate firms. All came back with the same conclusion. The expansion was a bad bet. Cruz looked at Dalton. You said the expansion was a sure thing. Dalton's jaw tightened. Markets shift. These projections are conservative, overly cautious. They're realistic, Elena corrected. And they're backed by data you chose to ignore because it didn't support the narrative you wanted to sell. Harrington raised a hand. Let's keep this civil. Elena met his eyes. I'm being civil. I'm also being honest. Richard has been positioning this expansion as bold leadership. But bold doesn't mean reckless. And leadership doesn't mean ignoring evidence because it's inconvenient. Dalton stood up. This is exactly what I've been talking about. Elena sees risk everywhere. She's paralyzed by it. This company didn't get where it is by playing it safe. No, Elena said quietly. It got where it is by making smart choices. And walking away from a $32 million loss is the smartest choice I've made all year. The room went silent. Harrington looked at the other board members. Questions? Morrison spoke up. What's your alternative? We can't just sit still. Elena clicked to the final slide. We focus on consolidation, strengthen our existing markets, invest in product development, build value before we expand footprint. It's slower, but it's sustainable. Kent frowned. Shareholders want growth. Shareholders want returns. Growth without profit isn't growth. It's just noise. Hampton nodded slowly. Cruz looked thoughtful. Dalton's face was red. This is risk aversion disguised as strategy. This is strategy, Elena said. You're just upset it's not yours. Harrington stood. Thank you, Elena. We'll take this under advisement and reconvene later this week. Elena closed her laptop. Understood. She walked out of the room with her head high, but her hands were shaking. Liam was waiting in the hallway. How'd it go? I don't know. Hampton and Cruz seemed open. The others, not so much. You did good. I did what I could. Now I just have to wait. Liam walked with her back to her office. You want to get out of here? Clear your head? I can't. I have back-to-back meetings all afternoon. Then tonight, dinner, my place. Nothing fancy, just food and maybe a break from all this. Elena hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because if the board votes me out, I don't want you caught in the fallout. Liam stopped walking. You think I care about that? You should. Association with me could hurt your contract. Elena, I'm a maintenance guy. They're not going to fire me because I had dinner with you. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. And even if they did, I'd survive. I always do. She looked at him, something breaking in her eyes. Why do you keep doing this? Doing what? Showing up, staying, acting like I'm worth the trouble. Liam stepped closer. Because you are. Elena's throat worked. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you well enough. She shook her head, but she didn't argue. What time? 6. I'll text you the address. That evening, Elena stood outside a small house in a neighborhood she'd never been to, holding a bottle of wine she'd picked up on the way over. She almost turned around 3 times, but she knocked. Liam answered, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. You made it. I did. He stepped aside. Come in. The house was small but warm, lived in. There were toys scattered in the corner, drawings taped to the fridge, a couch that sagged in the middle. It felt like a home. Elena realized she didn't know what that felt like. A kid appeared from the hallway, all messy hair and curious eyes. Hi. Hi, Elena said, suddenly unsure. Liam put a hand on the kid's shoulder. This is my son, Tyler. Tyler, this is Elena. Tyler looked her over. You're the one Dad's been weird about. Liam's face flushed. Buddy, it's fine, Elena said, almost smiling. Yeah, I'm probably the one. Tyler nodded, satisfied. You want to see my Lego castle? Later, Liam cut in. After dinner, go wash up. Tyler ran off. Liam looked at Elena. Sorry, he's curious. He seems great. He's a pain in the ass, but yeah, he's great. Dinner was spaghetti. Simple, homemade, nothing fancy. They ate at a small table in the kitchen, Tyler talking nonstop about school and his friends, and a field trip coming up. Elena listened, trying to remember the last time she'd sat at a table like this. With people who weren't trying to impress her or get something from her, people who just existed. She couldn't. After dinner, Tyler dragged her into the living room to show off his Lego castle. It was half-finished, ambitious, held together with sheer determination and Scotch tape. "It's going to have a drawbridge," Tyler explained, "and a tower, and maybe a dragon if I can find the right pieces." Elena knelt down next to him. "That's a solid design." "You think?" "Yeah, the foundation's strong. That's the most important part." Tyler beamed. "Dad says that too. About buildings." Elena glanced at Liam, who was watching from the doorway. "Your dad's smart." "I know." Liam eventually put Tyler to bed, and Elena helped clean up the kitchen. They worked in silence, washing dishes, putting leftovers away. When they were done, Liam poured 2 glasses of wine, and they sat on the couch. "Your son's great," Elena said. "He likes you." "How can you tell?" "He didn't ask you to leave. That's his version of approval." Elena smiled. "Good to know." They sat in silence for a while, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. "This is weird," Elena said finally. "What is?" "This. Sitting here, feeling normal." "Is that bad?" "I don't know. I'm not used to it." Liam looked at her. "What are you used to?" Elena thought about that. "Work. Pressure. People wanting things from me. I don't remember the last time I just existed without an agenda." "Sounds exhausting." "It is. So why do you keep doing it?" "Because I don't know how to do anything else." Liam set down his glass. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're scared that if you stop, you'll realize you don't like the life you've built. So you keep moving, keep working, keep pushing, because as long as you're busy, you don't have to ask yourself if you're happy." Elena stared at him. "You're not wrong. So what would make you happy?" She laughed, bitter. "I don't know. I don't think I've ever thought about it." "Then maybe it's time to start." Elena looked around the room, at the toys, the drawings, the lived-in mess of a life that wasn't hers, but felt more real than anything she'd experienced in years. "I used to have this," she said quietly. "Didn't I?" Liam nodded. "Yeah, you did." "What was it like?" "It was messy and small and broke half the time, but it was ours. And you loved it." Elena closed her eyes. "I wish I remembered." "Maybe you will, someday. Or maybe I won't. Maybe this is all I get." Liam reached over and took her hand. "Then we make new memories." Elena looked at him, and for the first time in 7 years, she felt something crack open inside her. Something that had been locked away so long she'd forgotten it was there. "I don't know how," she whispered. "We'll figure it out." She didn't pull her hand away. The next morning, Elena woke up on Liam's couch, a blanket draped over her. She sat up, disoriented. The house was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Liam appeared from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Morning." "I fell asleep." "Yeah, you were out before I could offer you the guest room." Elena took the coffee, embarrassed. "I should go." "You don't have to." "I have meetings." "It's 6 in the morning. Your meetings don't start until 9. Elena hesitated. "I don't want to impose." "You're not." Liam sat down next to her. "Tyler's still asleep. We've got time." They drank their coffee in silence, the morning stretching out soft and unhurried. Elena couldn't remember the last time she'd woken up somewhere that felt safe. "I got a call last night," she said finally. "From Hampton. He wanted to talk off the record." Liam set down his mug. "What'd he say?" "He's voting in my favor. Said my presentation changed his mind. That's 5 votes. Dalton only has 4 now. That's good, right?" "It would be. Except Cruz still hasn't decided. And if he sides with Dalton, it's a tie, which means Harrington gets the final say." "What do you think Harrington will do?" Elena shook her head. "I don't know. He's impossible to read." "Then you convince Cruz." "I've tried. He won't return my calls." Liam thought for a moment. "What does Cruz care about?" "Legacy. His family built their wealth in shipping. He's obsessed with being remembered as someone who made smart long-term bets." "Then you pitch him legacy. Show him that your plan builds something that lasts. Dalton's expansion is flashy, but it's short-term. Yours is the long game." Elena looked at him. "That might actually work." "Then do it." She stood, gathering her things. I need to get to the office. Liam walked her to the door. Elena? She turned. Whatever happens with the board, you're going to be okay. She wanted to believe him. I hope so. I know so. She left before she could say something she'd regret. That afternoon, Elena finally got through to Cruz. She met him at his office downtown, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Cruz was in his 50s, trim and sharp-eyed, with the kind of confidence that came from old money and older power. You've been persistent, he said, gesturing to a chair. I've been thorough. Hampton tells me you made a compelling case. I did, but I wanted to talk to you directly. Cruz leaned back. I'm listening. Elena pulled out a folder. You care about legacy, about building something that outlasts you. Dalton's expansion is a gamble, high risk, high rewards, maybe, but it's also high probability of failure. If it tanks, Vaughn Industries takes a hit we might not recover from, and your name is attached to that. Cruz's expression didn't change. Elena continued, My plan isn't flashy, but it's sustainable. We consolidate, we strengthen, we build value over time. In 10 years, this company will be twice what it is now, and it'll be because we made smart choices, patient choices, the kind of choices people remember. Cruz tapped his fingers on the desk. Dalton says you're risk-averse, that you'll stagnate the company. Dalton says a lot of things. Most of them are designed to make him look good, not to help the company. Strong words. True words. Cruz studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, just slightly. You've got spine. I'll give you that. So do you. That's why I'm here. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. I'll vote in your favor. But you need to understand something, Elena. This is your one shot. If your plan doesn't deliver, the board will push you out, and I won't stop them. I understand. Good. Then we're done here. Elena left the office feeling lighter than she had in weeks. 6 votes. She had 6 votes. Dalton's play was dead. But when she got back to Vaughn Industries, something was wrong. The lobby was buzzing. People were gathered in clusters, whispering. When Elena walked past, they went silent. She took the elevator up to the executive floor. Her assistant, a young woman named Maria, was waiting outside her office, face pale. What happened? Elena asked. Maria handed her a tablet. It went live an hour ago. Elena looked at the screen. It was an article, published by a major business outlet. The headline read, Vaughn Industries CEO under fire, internal conflict and leadership questions. The article detailed the board tensions, the vote of no confidence, Dalton's push to replace her. But it went further. It quoted anonymous sources claiming Elena was emotionally unstable, made reckless decisions, had conflicts of interest. And then at the bottom, there was a photo. Elena and Liam, leaving the gala together, her hand in his. The caption read, Vaughn seen with unidentified man amid company turmoil. Elena's hands went cold. Who leaked this? She asked, voice tight. Maria shook her head. I don't know, but it's everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, every business blog. People are asking questions. Elena walked into her office and closed the door. She sat down at her desk, staring at the article, reading it over and over. Someone had set her up. Someone had fed the press just enough truth to make it look credible, then added lies to make her look unstable. Her phone buzzed. Harrington, she answered. I saw the article. We need to talk. My office. Now. Elena hung up and stood. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced herself to move. Harrington's office was cold, sterile. He sat behind his desk, expression unreadable. Sit. Elena sat. Harrington steepled his fingers. This article is a problem. It's a hit piece. Half of it's lies. That doesn't matter. Perception is reality. And right now the perception is that you're unstable and distracted. I'm neither. Then who's the man in the photo? Elena's jaw tightened. A friend. Does this friend work at the company? He's a contractor. Maintenance. Harrington's eyebrows lifted. You're dating a maintenance worker. I'm not dating anyone. He's a friend. Elena, I don't care what you do in your personal life, but when it affects the company's image, it becomes my problem. It doesn't affect anything. It does when the board sees it, when investors see it, when clients see it. Elena felt her control slipping. This is Dalton. He leaked the article. He's trying to discredit me before the vote. Can you prove that? No, but then it's speculation. Harrington leaned forward. Here's the situation. The board is convening tomorrow, emergency session. They're going to vote on whether to remove you, and after this article, I don't know which way it's going to go. I have 6 votes. You had 6 votes. Cruz called me an hour ago. He's reconsidering. Elena's stomach dropped. What? He doesn't want to be associated with instability, and this article makes you look unstable. That's insane. I gave him a solid plan. He agreed, and now he's wavering, because optics matter, Elena. You know that. Elena stood. So what do you want me to do? Apologize for having a life outside this company? I want you to be smart. Distance yourself from the controversy. Make a statement. Reassure people that you're focused. I am focused. Then prove it. Elena walked out, hands shaking, vision blurred. She made it to the stairwell before the tears came. She sank down onto the steps, head in her hands, trying to breathe. Everything she'd built was collapsing, and she didn't know how to stop it. Footsteps echoed below. Then Liam appeared, toolbox in hand. He stopped when he saw her. Elena. She looked up, face wet. You shouldn't be here. Why not? Because I'm toxic. Because being associated with me is going to hurt you. Liam set down the toolbox and sat next to her. I don't care. You should. That article. They're using you to discredit me. And if this gets worse, you could lose your contract. Then I lose it. Liam, I don't care, Elena. I don't care about the contract, or the job, or what people think. I care about you, and I'm not going anywhere. Elena shook her head. You don't understand. This isn't just bad press. This is the board trying to destroy me. And anyone close to me is collateral damage. Let them try. You can't fight this. I can barely fight this. Liam took her hand. Then we fight it together. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to push him away, protect him from the fallout, but she was so tired of fighting alone. I don't know if I can win, she whispered. Maybe you don't have to win. Maybe you just have to survive. She leaned against him, and for a moment the world stopped spinning. What if surviving isn't enough? Liam's voice was quiet. Then we figure out what is. They sat there in the stairwell, the building humming around them, and Elena realized something. She didn't want to fight for Vaughn Industries anymore. She wanted to fight for herself. But she didn't know if she was strong enough. The next morning, the board convened. Elena walked into the room with her head high, her hands steady, even though she felt like she was walking to her own execution. All 6 board members were there. Harrington at the head, Dalton across from her, smug and satisfied. Harrington opened the meeting. We're here to address the recent concerns regarding Ms. Vaughn's leadership. Given the internal conflicts and external press, we need to determine whether she's still the right person to lead this company. Elena kept her face neutral. Hampton spoke first. I've reviewed Elena's strategic plan. It's sound. I'm voting to keep her. Morrison nodded. Agreed. The press's noise, her track record speaks for itself. 2 votes. Kent leaned back. I'm less convinced. The optics are bad, and bad optics hurt the brand. I'm voting to remove her. Dalton's smile widened. 3-2. Cruz cleared his throat. Everyone turned to him. I've thought a lot about this, he said slowly, and I keep coming back to one question. What kind of leader do we want? Someone who plays it safe, or someone who makes the hard call, even when it's unpopular? Elena held her breath. Cruz looked at her. You made the hard call on the expansion. You were right, and I respect that. I'm voting to keep you. 4-2. Dalton's face darkened. The last board member, a woman named Lynn, who rarely spoke, folded her hands. I don't care about the press. I care about results. Elena's delivered results. I'm voting to keep her. 5-2. Elena felt the air leave her lungs. Harrington looked around the table. Then it's decided. Ms. Vaughn retains her position as CEO. Dalton stood abruptly. This is a mistake. Noted, Harrington said coolly. Meeting adjourned. Elena walked out of the room, her legs barely holding her. She made it to her office, closed the door, and finally let herself breathe. She'd won. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like she'd survived, barely, and she knew that the next time she might not be so lucky. That evening, Liam called her. "I heard. Congratulations." Elena sank into her chair. "Thanks. You don't sound happy." "I'm relieved. That's different." "Fair enough." There was a pause. Then Liam said, "You want to get out of the city this weekend? Take a break?" "I can't. I have work." "I know. But you also have a life, or you could, if you let yourself." Elena closed her eyes. "Where would we go?" "I don't know. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere you can think." She wanted to say no. Wanted to stay in her office, keep working, keep proving she deserved to be there. But she was so tired. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's go." And for the first time in as long as she could remember, Elena chose something for herself. Not for the company, not for the board, not for anyone else, just for her. They left Saturday morning before the sun came up. Liam had borrowed a friend's truck, packed a cooler with sandwiches and drinks, and picked Elena up from her apartment at 5:30. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, but she'd shown up with a small overnight bag and a hesitant smile. Tyler was spending the weekend with a school friend, so it was just the two of them. They drove north, away from the city, the skyline shrinking in the rearview mirror until it disappeared completely. Elena didn't ask where they were going. She just stared out the window, watching the buildings give way to trees, the noise fade into silence. 2 hours later, they pulled off onto a dirt road that wound through dense forest. The trees were thick here, old growth, the kind that made you feel small. Liam parked near a trailhead. "We're hiking?" Elena looked down at her sneakers. "I'm not exactly dressed for it." "You'll be fine, it's not far." They grabbed their bags and started walking. The trail was narrow, uneven, roots and rocks jutting up through the dirt. Elena stumbled once, and Liam caught her elbow. "Thanks." "You good?" "Yeah, just out of practice." They walked in silence for a while, the only sounds their footsteps and the rustle of leaves overhead. The air smelled like pine and earth, clean in a way the city never was. After about 20 minutes, the trail opened up into a clearing. There was a small cabin at the edge, weathered wood and a sagging porch, but sturdy. A lake stretched out beyond it, the water dark and still, reflecting the sky. Elena stopped. "Where are we?" "My uncle's place. He doesn't use it much anymore. Said I could borrow it whenever I wanted." "It's beautiful." "Yeah, it is." They walked up to the cabin. Liam unlocked the door and pushed it open. Inside was simple. One room with a bed, a small kitchenette, a wood stove in the corner. Dust hung in the air, but it felt lived in, safe. Elena set down her bag. "How long has it been since you were here?" "Couple years. I used to bring Tyler when he was younger. We'd fish, make s'mores, pretend we were explorers." "That sounds nice." It was. Liam opened the windows to air the place out, then grabbed the cooler from the truck. They spent the afternoon on the porch, eating sandwiches, not talking much, just existing. Elena watched the lake, the way the light moved across the water, and for the first time in weeks, her mind went quiet. "I forgot what this felt like," she said after a while. "What?" "Peace. Just nothing happening. No decisions to make, no one needing something from me." Liam leaned back in his chair. "You should do this more often." "I don't have time." "You don't make time. That's different." Elena looked at him. "You think I choose to live like this?" "I think you're scared to stop. Because if you stop, you'll have to deal with everything you've been running from." She didn't argue. Because he was right. That evening, Liam built a fire in the wood stove, and they sat on the floor in front of it, the warmth spreading through the small room. Elena pulled her knees to her chest. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah." When Ava left, what did you do?" "After you stopped looking." Liam stared into the fire. "I tried to move on. Got a job, kept working, took care of Tyler, went through the motions, but I never really let go. Part of me always thought you'd come back, that one day I'd turn around and you'd be there, and everything would make sense. And now? Now I know you're not coming back, because the person I knew doesn't exist anymore. and I have to figure out if I can love the person you are now. Elena's throat tightened. And can you? Liam looked at her. I think I already do. She didn't know what to say to that. They sat in silence, the fire crackling, the darkness pressing in around them. Finally, Elena said, I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be close to someone. Let someone in. I've spent so long keeping people at a distance, I don't know how to stop. Then don't stop. Just slow down. Let me be here. That's all I'm asking. Elena met his eyes. What if I hurt you? You probably will. People do. But I'd rather be hurt by you than safe with someone I don't care about. She reached out, hesitant, and took his hand. They stayed like that for a long time, the fire burning low, the night settling around them. Eventually, Liam stood. I'm going to get more wood. You should get some sleep. I'm not tired. You look exhausted. Elena smiled faintly. I am, but I don't want to sleep yet. Liam sat back down. Then we'll stay up. And they did. They talked about small things. Tyler's school, the cabin, the lake. Nothing important, nothing heavy, just words filling the space between them. When Elena finally fell asleep, curled up on the floor with a blanket pulled over her, Liam stayed awake a little longer, watching her. She looked younger in sleep, less guarded. He wondered if she'd ever let herself look like that when she was awake. The next morning, Elena woke to the smell of coffee. She sat up, disoriented, and found Liam at the small stove, boiling water in a battered kettle. Morning, he said. What time is it? 7. You slept through the sunrise. Elena rubbed her eyes. I haven't slept that long in years. Good. You needed it. He handed her a cup of coffee, black, the way she liked it. She took it gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warmth. They ate breakfast on the porch, toast and eggs cooked on the stove, nothing fancy. The lake was calm, mist rising off the surface in thin tendrils. You want to walk? Liam asked. Yeah. They followed a trail that circled the lake, the ground soft underfoot. Elena's leg ached, the old injury flaring up, but she didn't say anything, just kept walking. Halfway around, Liam stopped. You're limping. I'm fine. Elena, she sighed. It's an old injury. From the accident. Acts up sometimes. You need to rest? No, I just need to keep moving. Liam didn't push, just slowed his pace so she could keep up. They walked in silence for a while, the trees thick around them, birds calling overhead. Then Elena said, I've been thinking about what you said, about not knowing if you can love the person I am now. Liam glanced at her. Yeah? I don't know if I can love myself. The person I've become. I look at my life and I don't recognize it. I don't know who built it or why. It feels like I'm living someone else's story, then write a new one. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I don't know who I am without the company, without the work. That's all I have. Liam stopped walking. That's not true. What else do I have? You have me. You have the chance to figure out what you actually want instead of what you think you're supposed to want. You have a whole life ahead of you, Elena. You just have to be brave enough to take it. She looked at him, eyes wet. I'm not brave. Yeah, you are. You walked away from a board meeting that could have ended your career. You stood up to Dalton. You're here, right now, even though every instinct you have is telling you to run. That's brave. Elena shook her head. That's survival. It's not the same thing. Sometimes it is. They started walking again, slower this time. Elena thought about what he'd said, about writing a new story, about being brave. She didn't feel brave. She felt terrified. But she kept walking. That afternoon, they sat by the lake, skipping stones across the water. Elena hadn't done this since she was a kid, or at least she didn't think she had. The memory was hazy, like something she'd seen in a dream. Liam showed her how to find the right rocks, flat and smooth, how to angle her wrist for the best skip. Her first few tries sank immediately. You're throwing too hard, Liam said. It's not about force, it's about technique. Everything's about technique with you. That's because technique works. Elena tried again. This time, the rock skipped once before sinking. Better. She tried again. 2 skips. There you go. By the fifth try, she got 3 skips, and she actually smiled. Liam grinned. Look at that. You're a natural. I wouldn't go that far. They kept throwing until the sun started to set, the sky turning orange and pink, the light dancing across the water. Elena sat down on the bank, pulling her knees to her chest. I don't want to go back. Liam sat next to her. To the city? To everything. The company, the board, the constant pressure. I don't want to go back to that. Then don't. I have to. That's my life. It doesn't have to be. Elena looked at him. What are you saying? I'm saying you have a choice. You don't have to keep doing this. You could walk away. And do what? I don't know. Whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy. Elena laughed, bitter. I don't know what makes me happy. Then find out. She shook her head. It's not that easy. I have responsibilities, people depending on me. The company will survive without you. It survived before you. It'll survive after you. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Elena's voice cracked. The point is that if I walk away, I have nothing. No career, no identity, no purpose. I'll just be empty. Liam turned to face her. You're not empty, Elena. You're just scared. And I get it. But you can't keep living a life you hate just because you're afraid of what comes next. I don't hate it. Don't you? She didn't answer because she didn't know. That night, they made dinner together in the small kitchen. Pasta and canned sauce, nothing special, but it felt like the best meal Elena had eaten in years. They ate by candlelight, the electricity in the cabin was spotty, and talked about nothing. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read, places they wanted to visit. It was easy, comfortable, and that scared Elena more than anything. After dinner, they sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching the stars. I used to do this with Ava, Liam said quietly. Sit outside, look at the stars. She'd make up constellations, give them ridiculous names. The spatula, the broken chair, the guy who's lost. Elena smiled. I like that last one. Yeah, it was her favorite. They sat in silence for a while, the night pressing in around them. Then Elena said, Do you think she's still in there? Ava, somewhere? Liam looked at her. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe she's gone, and you're someone new. Either way, I'm here. Why? Because I want to be. Elena turned to him, searching his face. I don't deserve this. Stop saying that. It's true. No, it's not. You've just convinced yourself it is because it's easier than believing you're worth something. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to believe that. Then let me believe it for you until you can believe it yourself. She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her while she cried. For the first time in 7 years, Elena let herself break. And Liam didn't try to fix her. He just held her. The next morning, they packed up and drove back to the city. The closer they got, the heavier Elena felt. Like she was putting on armor, piece by piece, until she couldn't breathe. By the time they pulled up to her apartment, she was Elena Vaughn again, CEO, untouchable, in control. Liam walked her to the door. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. You don't look fine. I just need to get back to work, clear my head. Liam frowned. Elena, thank you for the weekend. I needed it, but I have to get back to reality now. This doesn't have to be reality. You could choose something different. I can't. You won't. Elena's jaw tightened. You don't understand. I understand that you're terrified, and I understand that you'd rather bury yourself in work than deal with what you're feeling. But that's not going to make it go away. I don't have time for this. Then make time. Elena shook her head. I can't. I have a company to run, a board to manage. I can't just walk away because I had a nice weekend in the woods. I'm not asking you to walk away. I'm asking you to let yourself be happy. I am happy. You're surviving. That's not the same thing. Elena's voice rose. This is my life, Liam. This is who I am, and I can't just throw it away because you think I should. I'm not asking you to throw it away. I'm asking you to consider that maybe there's more to life than work. There isn't, not for me. Liam stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded, stepped back. Okay, if that's what you want. It is. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, I think you're wrong. I think you deserve more than this, but you're the only one who can decide that. He walked away, and Elena stood there, watching him go. She wanted to call him back, wanted to tell him he was right, but she didn't. She went inside, closed the door, and went back to work. The following week, Elena threw herself into the company. She worked 16-hour days, took every meeting, answered every email. She was in the office before anyone else and left after everyone was gone. People noticed. They whispered about her being back to her old self. Focused, driven, unstoppable. But Elena felt hollow. She went through the motions, made the decisions, signed the contracts, but none of it meant anything. On Thursday, Dalton cornered her in the hallway. "You look tired," he said. "I'm fine." "Really?" "Because the board's starting to wonder if you can handle the pressure." Elena turned to face him. "The board voted to keep me. Or did you forget? They voted to give you a chance. That doesn't mean they trust you. What do you want, Richard?" He smiled. "I want to make sure you know what you're doing, because the next time you slip, I'll be there. And I won't hesitate." Elena met his eyes. "Neither will I." Dalton walked away, leaving Elena standing there, anger simmering under her skin. She hated him, hated the way he circled her like a vulture, waiting for her to fail. But more than that, she hated that he was right. She was slipping. She could feel it, the exhaustion, the doubt, the cracks in her armor, and she didn't know how to stop it. That night, Elena sat in her office, staring at her computer screen. There was an email from Liam, just one line. "I'm here if you need me." She stared at it for a long time. Then she closed the laptop and went home. But she didn't sleep. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the lake, the cabin, the way it had felt to let go, even for a moment. She wondered if she'd ever feel that way again. The next day, everything fell apart. Elena was in a meeting with the senior leadership team when her assistant knocked on the door, face pale. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation." Elena excused herself and stepped into the hallway. "What's going on?" "There's been a data breach. Someone accessed our client files, thousands of records, personal information, financial data, everything." Elena's blood ran cold. "When?" "Sometime last night. It just caught it." "Do we know who?" "Not yet, but it looks like it came from inside the company." Elena's mind raced. A data breach. From the inside. That meant someone with access had either been careless or malicious. Either way, it was a disaster. "Lock down the system, get IT to trace the source, and don't tell anyone until we know what we're dealing with." Her assistant nodded and hurried off. Elena stood there, heart pounding, trying to think. This was bad. If the press got hold of this, if clients found out their data had been compromised, the company would be finished, and the board would blame her. She went back to her office, closed the door, and started making calls. By the end of the day, IT had traced the breach to a single login. One of the junior analysts, a kid fresh out of college who'd been with the company less than a year. Elena had him brought to her office. He looked terrified. "I didn't mean to. I swear I didn't mean to." "Explain." "I was working late, trying to pull a report. I clicked on a link in an email. I thought it was from HR. But it wasn't. It was a phishing scam. And once I clicked it, they got access to everything." Elena's jaw tightened. "You clicked on a phishing email." "I'm sorry. I didn't know. You're trained on this. Everyone is. You knew better." The kid's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I screwed up. But I didn't do it on purpose. Please. I need this job." Elena looked at him, this scared kid who'd made a stupid mistake, and felt a wave of exhaustion. She couldn't fire him, not without the board's approval, and if she brought this to the board, they'd use it against her, proof that her leadership was weak, that she couldn't control her own team. But if she didn't fire him, and the breach got worse, she'd be blamed for that too. She was trapped. "Get out," she said quietly. The kid left, stumbling over his own feet. Elena sat down at her desk and put her head in her hands. She didn't know what to do. For the first time in her career, she had no idea what the right move was. That night, she called Liam. He answered on the second ring. "Elena? I need to see you." "What's wrong?" "Everything. Can you meet me?" "Yeah, where?" "The diner, the one near your place." "I'll be there in 20. Elena hung up and grabbed her keys. She didn't know what she was going to say to him, didn't know if he could help, but she knew she couldn't do this alone anymore. When she got to the diner, Liam was already there, sitting in a booth by the window. She slid in across from him, and he took one look at her face and said, "What happened?" She told him everything, the breach, the kid, the impossible choice. When she was done, Liam leaned back. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know. If I fire him, the board uses it against me. If I don't, and this gets worse, they'll say I'm too soft." "Forget the board. What do you think is right?" Elena looked at him. "I think he made a mistake. A bad one. But it wasn't malicious. He's just a kid." "Then give him a second chance. And if the board finds out, then you deal with it. But at least you'll know you did the right thing." Elena stared at her hands. "I'm so tired of this. Of always having to calculate every move, every decision. I just want to do what's right without worrying about the consequences." "Then do it. It's not that simple." "It is. You're just scared." Elena looked up, eyes wet. "Yeah, I am." Liam reached across the table and took her hand. "Then be scared, but do it anyway." She held onto his hand, and for the first time all day, she felt like she could breathe. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll give him another chance." "Good." They sat there for a while, not talking, just holding hands across the table. And Elena realized something. She didn't want to keep fighting alone. She didn't want to keep pretending she had all the answers. She just wanted to be honest. With herself. With Liam. With everyone. Even if it cost her everything. The data breach hit the news 3 days later. Elena had done everything she could to contain it. Hired a crisis management firm. Notified affected clients personally. Implemented new security protocols. But someone had leaked it to the press, and by Wednesday morning, it was everywhere. The headlines were brutal. Vaughn Industries compromised, thousands of client records exposed. Leadership in question after security failure. Is Elena Vaughn fit to lead? Elena sat in her office reading article after article, feeling the walls close in. Her phone buzzed. "Harrington." She answered. "I know what you're going to say." "Emergency board meeting, today, 4 o'clock. I'll be there." "Elena, this is bad. Worse than the last time. You need to be prepared." "I am prepared." "Are you? Because if you walk into that room without a plan, they're going to eat you alive." Elena hung up and stared at the ceiling. She had a plan, sort of. She'd prepared a statement, outlined the steps the company was taking to prevent future breaches, even had the junior analyst write a formal apology. But she knew it wasn't enough. The board didn't want explanations. They wanted blood, and she was the easiest target. At 3:30, Elena walked down to the boardroom. She stopped outside the door, taking a breath, steadying herself. Then she heard voices inside. "This is exactly what I've been saying. She's a liability." "Dalton." Elena pressed closer to the door, listening. "She's had chance after chance, and every time something goes wrong. The expansion veto, the press leak, now this. How many failures does it take before we admit she's not capable?" "The breach wasn't her fault," Hampton said. "It was a phishing scam. Could have happened to anyone, but it happened on her watch. And she chose not to fire the person responsible. That's weak leadership." Cruz's voice. "What would you have done differently?" "I would have made an example of him, fired him publicly, shown clients we take security seriously, and destroyed a kid's career over a mistake." Sometimes you have to make hard choices. That's what leadership is. Elena closed her eyes, fury and exhaustion warring inside her. She could walk in there and defend herself. Again, she could fight, argue, prove she was right, but she was so tired of fighting, tired of justifying every decision, tired of walking on eggshells around people who wanted her to fail, tired of pretending this was the life she wanted. She turned and walked away. When she got to her office, she pulled out her laptop and started typing. By the time the board meeting started, she had a plan, just not the one they were expecting. Elena walked into the boardroom at 4 o'clock sharp. All 6 board members were there. Harrington at the head of the table, Dalton smug and ready, Hampton and Cruz looking cautious, Morrison and Lynn waiting. Elena set her laptop on the table but didn't sit down. "Before we begin," she said, "I have something to say." Harrington frowned. "Elena, we need to address the breach. I know, and we will. But first, I need to be honest with all of you. The room went quiet. Elena took a breath. For the past 5 years, I've given everything to this company. My time, my energy, my life. I've made decisions I believed were right, even when they were unpopular. I've fought for this company harder than I've fought for anything. Dalton leaned back, arms crossed. Is there a point to this? Elena ignored him, but somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I became so focused on proving I belonged here, on showing you I was strong enough, smart enough, that I forgot why I started doing this in the first place. Harrington's expression softened slightly. Elena, I'm not finished. Her voice was steady. The truth is, I don't know if I want this anymore. I don't know if leading this company is what's best for me, or for you. The room erupted. What are you saying? Cruz demanded. Are you resigning? Morrison asked. Dalton smiled. Finally. Elena held up a hand. I'm saying I need to make a choice, and I can't make it under pressure. So here's what's going to happen. I'm taking a leave of absence, effective immediately. 30 days. You can appoint an interim CEO. Richard, if you want the job, it's yours, for now. Dalton's smile widened. Harrington stood. Elena, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, because if I don't, I'm going to break. And I'd rather walk away on my terms than be pushed out on yours. And after 30 days, Hampton asked quietly. Elena met his eyes. After 30 days, I'll come back. And I'll tell you whether I want to stay. And if I do, it'll be because I chose it. Not because I was afraid to let go. Lynn spoke for the first time. And if you don't come back, then you'll have your answer, and you can move forward without me. The room was silent. Elena closed her laptop. The crisis management team has a full report on the breach. IT has implemented new protocols. The junior analyst has been put on probation with mandatory retraining. Everything you need is in the shared drive. She looked around the table one last time. I'm sorry it came to this, but I'm not sorry for the decisions I made. I did what I thought was right, and I'd do it again. She turned and walked out. Behind her, she heard Dalton laugh. Well, that was easier than I thought. But she didn't stop. She walked straight to her office, grabbed her bag, and left the building. And for the first time in 5 years, she didn't look back. Liam was at home when Elena called. Can I come over? Yeah, of course. I did something. What? I'll tell you when I get there. When Elena arrived, Liam was waiting on the porch. Tyler was inside, playing video games. Elena got out of the car and Liam saw it immediately. Something in her face had changed. The tension, the tightness. It was gone. She looked exhausted, but lighter. I left, she said. Left what? The company took a leave of absence. 30 days. Liam stared at her. You're serious? Yeah. What happened? Elena told him everything. The board meeting, Dalton's comments, her decision. When she was done, Liam just looked at her. How do you feel? Terrified. But also, free. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. Liam pulled her into a hug, and she leaned into him, letting herself be held. I don't know what I'm going to do, she said quietly. I don't have a plan. You don't need one, not yet. What if I don't go back? What if I walk away for good? Then you walk away. And do what? Whatever you want. Elena pulled back, looking at him. I don't know what I want. Then we'll figure it out together. She nodded, and for the first time in a long time, she believed him. Over the next few days, Elena did nothing. She slept in, made coffee, sat on Liam's porch and watched the world go by. Tyler came home from school and told her about his day, and she listened. Really listened. Not distracted, not thinking about work, just present. It felt strange, uncomfortable at first, but slowly she started to relax. One afternoon, Liam took her to a bookstore. When's the last time you read something that wasn't a business report? He asked. Elena thought about it. I don't remember. Then pick something, anything, fiction, nonfiction, whatever, just something that has nothing to do with work. Elena wandered the aisles, running her fingers along the spines. She pulled out a novel, something about a woman hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. She'd never been hiking, never had time. This one, she said. Liam grinned. Good choice. They went to a coffee shop after, and Elena started reading while Liam worked on a crossword puzzle. It was quiet, simple, and Elena realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this calm. Thank you, she said after a while. Liam looked up. For what? For this. For not pushing me, for just letting me be. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Because no one's ever done this for me before. Just let me exist without expecting something in return. Liam reached across the table and took her hand. You deserve that. You always have. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I believe that yet. Then I'll keep saying it until you do. A week into her leave, Elena got a call from Harrington. How are you holding up? I'm okay. Better than I expected. Good. I'm glad. He paused. I wanted you to know Dalton's interim appointment isn't going well. He's already alienated half the senior team. The board's getting nervous. Elena felt a flicker of satisfaction. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. She smiled. No, I'm not. Elena, I want you to know, whatever you decide at the end of 30 days, the board will respect it. But I hope you come back. Not because we need you, though we do, but because I think you need to finish this on your terms. What if my terms are walking away? Then that's your choice, and I'll support it. Elena hung up, feeling something shift inside her. She didn't owe the company anything, didn't owe Harrington or Dalton or the board, but maybe she owed herself the chance to decide what she actually wanted. 2 weeks in, Liam took Elena back to the cabin. They spent the weekend hiking, cooking, sitting by the fire. Tyler came this time, and Elena watched him run around the lake, throwing rocks, laughing. She thought about what it would be like to have this, not just for a weekend, but all the time, a life that was quiet, simple, real. You're thinking too hard, Liam said, coming up beside her. I'm trying to figure out what I want. And? I think I want this, but I'm scared I'll get bored, that I'll miss the work. You might. And if you do, you can go back or find something new, but you don't have to decide right now. Elena looked at Tyler, who was building a fort out of sticks. What if I'm not good at this? At having a normal life? Then you'll figure it out, just like you figured out how to run a company. That was different. How? Because I knew what I was doing. Liam smiled. No, you didn't. You just convinced everyone you did. Same thing. Elena laughed despite herself. You're right. I usually am. That night, after Tyler went to bed, Elena and Liam sat by the fire. I've been thinking, Elena said, about Ava. Liam looked at her. Yeah? I don't think she's coming back. The memories, I mean. I've tried. I've thought about it, searched my mind, but it's just blank. And I think I need to accept that. Okay. But I also think that's okay. Because even if I don't remember being her, I can still choose who I want to be now. And maybe that's enough. Liam took her hand. It's more than enough. Elena leaned into him. I think I want to stay here. Not at the cabin, but something like this. Something quiet, where I can figure out who I am without all the noise. And the company? I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think the answer is no, that I don't want to go back. Liam kissed the top of her head. Then don't. 3 weeks into her leave, Elena made her decision. She called Harrington. I'm not coming back. There was a long pause. Are you sure? Yeah, I am. This isn't the life I want anymore. It never really was. I just didn't know how to let go. What will you do? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Elena, for what it's worth, you were one of the best leaders I've ever worked with, and I'm sorry the board made it so hard. Thank you. That means a lot. She hung up and felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She called Liam next. It's done. I resigned. How do you feel? Terrified and relieved and free. Good. Come over. We'll celebrate. When Elena got to Liam's house, Tyler was waiting with a homemade banner that said, Congratulations. What are we celebrating? Elena asked, laughing. Dad said you made a big decision, Tyler said. So we're celebrating. They ordered pizza and ate on the porch, and Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. happiness. Not the fleeting kind that came from closing a deal or winning a board vote, but the deep, quiet kind that came from being with people who cared about her, not for what she could do, but for who she was. Later that night, after Tyler went to bed, Liam and Elena sat on the couch. "So what now?" Liam asked. "I was thinking maybe I could go back to school, study architecture, like I wanted to before." "You remember wanting that?" "No, but you told me I did, and it sounds right, like something I'd want." "Then do it." Elena looked at him. "What about us?" "What about us? I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to hurt you." Liam smiled. "You probably will. At some point. People do. But I'm not going anywhere." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've already lost you once, and I survived. If I lose you again, I'll survive that too. But I'd rather take the risk than spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been." Elena's throat tightened. "I don't deserve you." "Stop saying that. You keep waiting for me to realize you're not worth it, but I already know you are, and nothing you say is going to change my mind." Elena kissed him, and it felt like coming home. Not to a place she remembered, but to a place she'd been searching for her whole life without knowing it. 6 months later, Elena enrolled in architecture school. She was older than most of the other students, and she struggled at first. The math was harder than she expected. The drawing, the design, it all felt foreign. But she kept going, because for the first time in her life, she was doing something because she wanted to, not because she had to prove herself. Not because someone expected it, just because it made her happy. Liam was there every step of the way, helping her study, listening to her vent about impossible professors, celebrating when she passed her exams. Tyler helped too, in his own way. He'd sit with her at the kitchen table, working on his homework while she worked on hers. One night he looked up and said, "You're like a student now, just like me." Elena smiled. "I guess I am." "That's cool." "You think?" "Yeah, it means you're not afraid to learn new stuff, even when it's hard." Elena looked at this kid, this smart, perceptive kid who saw the world so clearly, and felt her chest tighten. "You're right," she said. "I'm not afraid anymore." And she wasn't. A year after leaving Vaughn Industries, Elena ran into Richard Dalton at a coffee shop. She almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, tired. "Elena," he said, surprised. "Richard, I heard you went back to school." "Yeah, architecture." He nodded. "That's good. Good for you." There was an awkward pause, then Dalton said, "I owe you an apology for the way I treated you. I was so focused on getting ahead, I didn't care who I stepped on. And that was wrong." Elena studied him. He looked sincere, broken even. "What happened?" she asked. "I got what I wanted, became CEO. And then I realized it wasn't what I thought it would be. The board turned on me, same way they turned on you. I lasted 6 months before they forced me out." Elena felt a flicker of sympathy. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I deserved it." He looked at her. "You were right, about the expansion, about everything. I was too proud to see it. We all make mistakes." "Yeah, but you learned from yours." "I didn't, not until it was too late." Elena didn't know what to say to that. Dalton gave her a small, sad smile. "For what it's worth, I hope you're happy now." "I am." "Good. That's good." He left, and Elena sat there, coffee in hand, thinking about how different their paths had been. She could have been him. Could have kept chasing power, kept fighting, kept losing herself piece by piece. But she'd chosen differently, and that had made all the difference. 2 years after leaving Vaughn Industries, Elena graduated. Liam and Tyler were in the audience, cheering louder than anyone else. Afterward, they went out to dinner to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just a small Italian place with checkered tablecloths and bread that was too good to resist. Tyler raised his glass of soda. "To Elena, the smartest person I know." Liam raised his glass. "To Elena, who figured out what she wanted and went after it." Elena raised her own glass, tears in her eyes. "To second chances, and to the people who don't give up on you, even when you've given up on yourself." They clinked glasses, and Elena felt something she'd never felt before. Whole. Not perfect. Not without scars. But whole. That night, back at Liam's house, which had become her house too, somewhere along the way, Elena stood on the porch, looking up at the stars. Liam came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? Everything. The last few years, how different my life is now. Better? Elena leaned back against him. So much better. Any regrets? She thought about that. About Vaughn Industries, about the life she'd left behind, about the woman she used to be. No, she said finally. No regrets. Good. They stood there in the quiet, the night stretching out around them, and Elena realized something. She didn't need to remember who Ava Monroe was, didn't need to reclaim a past that was gone, because she'd built something new, something real, something that was hers, and that was enough. 3 years after leaving Vaughn Industries, Elena opened her own small architecture firm. It wasn't big, just her and 2 junior architects working out of a converted warehouse space. But it was hers. They specialized in affordable housing, buildings that were beautiful but practical, spaces where people could build lives, raise families, feel safe. It was the opposite of everything she'd done at Vaughn, smaller, slower, less prestigious. But it mattered. One afternoon, a young woman came into the office. She was nervous, clutching a folder. I heard you help people design homes, she said. I do. What are you looking for? Something small, but sturdy. I've been saving for years and I finally have enough for a down payment. I want it to be perfect. Elena smiled. Tell me about yourself. What do you need in a home? The woman lit up, talking about big windows and open spaces and a place where her kids could run around safely. Elena listened, taking notes, already sketching ideas in her mind. By the time the woman left, Elena had a vision for the house. Something simple but strong. Something that would last. That night, she told Liam about it. She reminded me of someone, Elena said. Who? Me. Or the version of me I might have been, if things had been different. Before the accident, before everything. Just someone who wanted a life that felt like home. Liam looked at her. You have that now. I do, and I want to give that to other people. That feeling of building something that's yours. Then you will. Elena looked around their house. The house she and Liam had bought together a year ago. It was small, with big windows and a backyard where Tyler played. It was exactly what she'd described to Liam years ago, even though she hadn't remembered saying it. It was home. And she'd finally stopped running from it. 5 years after leaving Vaughn Industries, Elena stood in front of a building she'd designed. It was a housing complex for low-income families. 40 units, each with balconies and natural light and spaces designed for people to live, not just survive. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was small. Just the mayor, a few city officials, and the families who'd be moving in. Elena gave a short speech. Nothing fancy, just a thank you to the team, a hope that the building would serve the community well. When it was over, a little girl ran up to her. Is this your building? She asked. Elena smiled. I helped design it. It's pretty. Thank you. I'm going to live here, with my mom and my brother. Elena knelt down. I hope you're happy here. I think I will be. It looks like home. Elena's throat tightened. Yeah, it does. The little girl ran off and Elena stood there, watching families move into the building, carrying boxes and furniture and hope. Liam came up beside her. Tyler was with him, now 14 and taller than Elena. You did good, Liam said. We did good, Elena corrected. Because it hadn't been just her, it had been Liam, supporting her through late nights and self-doubt. It had been Tyler, reminding her what really mattered. It had been every person who'd believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. That evening, they went back home. Elena cooked dinner while Tyler did homework, and Liam fixed a leaky faucet. It was ordinary, unremarkable, and it was everything. Later, after Tyler went to bed, Elena and Liam sat on the porch. Do you ever think about Vaughn Industries? Liam asked. Sometimes, but not the way I used to. I don't miss it. I just think about what it taught me. Which is? Elena thought for a moment. That power doesn't mean anything if you're not happy. That building something big doesn't matter if it doesn't mean something. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Liam nodded. I'm proud of you. For what? For choosing yourself, for not settling, for figuring out what you actually wanted instead of what you thought you should want. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. They sat in silence, watching the stars, the night quiet around them. And Elena thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago. Lost, angry, desperate to prove herself. That woman was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who'd learned that strength wasn't about control, that leadership wasn't about power, that happiness wasn't something you earned. It was something you chose. She didn't have all the answers, didn't have a perfect life, but she had a real one, and that was worth more than anything she'd left behind. Years later, when people asked Elena about her time at Vaughn Industries, she'd tell them the truth. She'd tell them she'd been lost, that she'd built a life that looked successful but felt empty, that she'd spent years running from herself, from her past, from anything that felt real. And then she'd tell them about Liam, about how he'd recognized her when she didn't recognize herself, about how he'd stood by her, not because he wanted something from her, but because he believed she was worth it. She'd tell them about walking away from power, about choosing happiness over prestige, about building something small but meaningful. And she'd tell them the most important thing she'd learned, that success isn't measured by titles or money or influence. It's measured by whether you can look at your life and feel like it's yours. Whether you can wake up in the morning and know that you're living the way you want to live, not the way someone else expects you to. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let go. And that true strength isn't about holding everything together. It's about knowing when to break apart so you can rebuild yourself into something real. Elena had learned that the hard way, but she'd learned it. And she'd never forget it, because the life she had now, the quiet, messy, imperfect life, was the one she'd been searching for all along. She just hadn't known it until she stopped running and started living.